I'd like to bring our town council meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Jonathan Ramsey.
Here.
Marianne Rosa.
Here.
Ken Demers.
Here.
Robert DeCina.
Here.
Anthony DeBona.
Here.
Gary Lafferty.
Here.
Robert Vitalik.
Here.
Denise Russ.
Here.
And Rachel Ryan.
Here.
Public comment. If anyone would like to address the town council, please come forward, state your name and address.
Al Mickle, 95 Woodbine Avenue. I'm not used to speaking in front of a large audience, but I'll make it as short as I can here. This is an important night. We're talking about money. But one of the first things I like to talk about is public participation. One of the things we have on the agenda tonight is something about a solar power, and I tried to read it. I didn't understand it very well. I'm hoping the town manager, somebody will speak to it, but I'm not sure that all my questions will be answered. So second, public participation would be a good idea. Second thing I have tonight is the spreadsheet, the format of the issues tonight on the budget looks very similar to an Excel spreadsheet, which I think is an excellent idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. Now, getting down to the details of the budget, I like the election workers. They got a raise. I think that's good, mainly because I think I will be one this year. Now, getting down to the police area, I'm always a supporter of the police, and I don't think this is the right time to defund them. I think they should get everything they need to do their job. I got a question for the town manager, and I hope he can answer this. Under public buildings, there's $70,000 to turn off the water at the Munson House. I thought he said $7,000 one night. If it is $70,000, we got to find a cheaper plumber. In the finance, it's only the finance department, Department 4, I think it is. I think we need something for the treasurer, the assessor, and the tax collector, so that might be included. And under health services, the elderly nutrition I found out the other night is for the Meals on Wheels, which I'm a great supporter. And I also saw in the package tonight how great the food bank is being supported, which I think is wonderful. But I think the elderly nutrition, it's only around $5,000. I think we can do better there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close public comment.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 7th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstention? Chairman's report. We got a couple resignation letters, one from Christine Shields as the Republican Registrar of Voters, also one from Cynthia Eastman as a member of the Board of Education, and Daniel Gelati as an alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I also wanted to mention to the town council members that you did receive templates for the town manager's evaluation. So if you guys could take a look and fill that out over the next week or two. I included an envelope to mail it back to the town to my name. And just as a reminder, when it has a scale from 1 to 5, 5 is insufficient knowledge, not fantastic. So keep that in mind when you're filling that out. Town manager?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Town Council. Just like to bring you up to date on the COVID caseload for Watertown. It has significantly decreased, as every other town in Connecticut. Watertown numbers have fallen back to the 7.8% positivity rate per the 100,000 people. We've roughly had about maybe 30 to 32 people test positive over the last week, so our numbers have dropped drastically. Towards the end of the month, we'll reevaluate whether we'll require masks in the town hall. If the numbers continue to go down, we'll probably opt to allow people to choose whether they want to wear a mask or not in the town hall, as well as town buildings. Our Golf Pro, the town has terminated the contract with our Golf Pro, and subsequently we have advertised, we've put out an RFP to attract another Golf Pro for Crestbrook. In your package tonight, I've asked you to review a contract with Golf Pro Now. Just to give you an idea what that is, it's just software. It's a platform for our golf course to take online tee times. And I'm just looking for permission for us, for me to be authorized to sign for that agreement so that we can keep control of that as we move forward. We have come across a building official, so we are partnering with the town of Thomaston. We're working through negotiations with that individual and the agreement between the town of Thomaston and ourselves. At this point, we've settled for Watertown to have 16 hours, which I've been told by our building official is sufficient to cover the work shortage or the work surplus that he does have. And then Thomaston will take the other 19 hours, so we'll end up with the person will end up with a full-time position as though he were to have 2 part-time jobs. In your package, I've also included an inclement weather policy. It's bizarre. In the last 40 years, we never had to have anybody come in late or not come into work at all, and I've been here a year and a half, and we've had to, 2 times we've had to make a determination whether to allow people to come into work or leave work early. So I thought it'd be best to put that in policy, and we just addressed where staff can look to decide whether or not we've made that decision, and just some conditions on employment so everybody understands how the pay process will go forward if we were to have a delay or a cancellation regarding staffing. And the other item I just wanted to touch base real quick. Actually, I'll save this for our discussion on the ARPA monies, and if you'd like, I could answer quickly Mr. Mickles' question regarding the $70,000. It is $70,000, and it is not to just turn the water off. There's a leak, and to get back all the way into the street, it's quite a project to get this dug up and the line put in, so it was $70,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we move items A and B under our new business, both of which are presentations to the council, forward on the agenda to be held now before the subcommittee reports.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So next, we have a presentation from the fire department regarding an ambulance service.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Tonight, I'm asking the Watertown Town Council to consider the formation of an ambulance service operated by the town of Watertown and being a division of the fire department housed at Fire Headquarters, 935 Main Street, Watertown, or possibly another town or location in the future. I am bringing this presentation to you in an effort to enhance the EMS services to the town of Watertown and Oakville and those that pass through the town daily. Nationwide, there has become shortage of paramedics and EMT that has affected response times to medical services not only in Watertown and Oakville, but to surrounding communities as well. The current response ambulance to Watertown and Oakville sometimes has delays in response or passes the call to other ambulance services, which at times causes up to a 40-minute delay or an ambulance to get to a medical call. These past calls roll over to volunteer services bordering Watertown and Oakville, and at times are passed 2 to 3 times before a unit responds. This delay in service is not something the residents of Watertown and Oakville deserve from their town. There is also a growing shortage of volunteers affecting communities nationwide, especially during the overnight hours, and Watertown and Oakville is not immune to this shortage. The Watertown Oakville EMS at times is having difficulty in getting volunteer responders to EMS calls. The proposed plan is to have 2 ambulances, one staffed 24/7, 365 days, and the other staffed 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 365 days. The staffing would be part-time employees with 1 full-time director of EMS services that would be a part of the staff for the second ambulance during the weekdays. The funding for these positions would be paid through the billing of the patient's insurance, with the billings being handled by a contracted billing agency, alleviating any burden to the town finance department for billing issues. After talks with Seymour EMS, a similar town to Watertown, they received $442 average revenue for an ambulance transport and received payment within 45 to 60 days. Using the statistics from Northwest Connecticut CMed, Watertown Oakville had 2,038 ambulance transports to hospitals in 2021. The cost associated with the formation of this ambulance would offset the revenue brought in by the transports. The ambulance service would pay the town to a fair portion for those utilities being used in the shared facility, and all other costs would be the responsibility of the ambulance service should the service receive extra revenue to cover these costs. In speaking with Thomas and Voluntary Ambulance, they do 778 calls per year and have a paid crew 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, and at other times when needed, costing $216,000, which is paid for through the ambulance service transport revenue. Other coverage is done by volunteers, which sometimes is hard to provide. The ambulance building is owned by the town, and all utility, building maintenance, vehicle maintenance, and fuel costs are covered by a yearly town ambulance budget of the town of $64,500. Which is reimbursed to the town through revenue collected by the ambulance service, with anything above 10% of revenue going back to the town. Thomas and Ambulance currently has enough in their service account from the 10% kept to buy a new ambulance. The formation of an ambulance, the formation of the Watertown Ambulance Service would need startup funding by the town for the initial startup cost estimated at $600,000, being for wages, the ambulances, and equipment. The startup cost of $600,000 would be paid back to the town over a period of time, agreed to by the town and the service, once the service is established and the financials are in place. In closing, the town of Watertown and Oakville has grown in the past decade, and the town's senior population continues to rise. Happily, residents are living longer, healthier lives. There are assisted living complexes already in town with more on the horizon, and over 55 age communities, which taxes the call volume of volunteers, especially when having to respond to non-emergency calls for lift assist at these facilities and communities, especially in the middle of the night. Watertown Fire and EMS volunteers ranks have unfortunately decreased in the past decade by 20 members, mostly because residents are working more than one job to support families and are unable to volunteer. We continue to do recruitment drives that our members holding steady at 75 members. And adding an ambulance service would enhance the EMS service to the town and remove the call volume of volunteers responding to non-emergency calls, and would slow the attrition rate of the membership. Beginning the town ambulance service would benefit the town residents by lowering the response time, administering quicker treatment and transport to a medical facility, and giving the residents the service they deserve at no cost to the town. Respectfully submitted, Chief David Bromley.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the chief? Ryan?
Could you make a copy of your statement?
Yes, I have one.
Available?
Yes.
There's a lot of figures there that we
Yep.
need to review.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gary?
I was wondering, how many calls does it take, have we had where it's been over 45 minutes for an ambulance to respond?
What's the question?
How many calls have we had in the past year where it's taken 45 minutes to respond to get an ambulance?
I don't know the exact number, but
Yeah.
it's one is too many to me.
Yeah. Now, what happens if, I was in Thomaston this morning, and the guy said to me that he's already asked that if we get an ambulance service, that they want to use us as their backup or use us for their calls for lift assist?
They were trying to get our fire department to do mutual aid to them for lift assist,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Because there was an issue with their fire department. I unfortunately had to decline that request to them.
I was just wondering, because if we did do that, would we charge them or get reimbursed at all?
Correct, there'd be a charge for that. All lift assist, there's a charge with the ambulance. Being volunteers, we cannot charge for lift assist.
All right. The other thing was just, I know it's been hard for, like you said, mentioned in your report, hard to recruit people.
Correct.
Yeah, I just didn't know, because I know some towns are offering like a $3,000 sign-on bonus. So I don't know, I'm almost wondering if it's worth going at it at this time to get an ambulance service in town.
The thing with an ambulance service is it's revenue that would come into the town, and it would be no cost to the town to have an ambulance service, and it would give some of the department members who wanted a part-time job, basically. The ambulance service, right now, we're waiting for an ambulance from Waterbury first, and if they can't do it, it starts bouncing around the county, around us, around, Middlebury, Woodbury, and then usually to Thomason, and Thomason usually takes it. So, and each time it's passed, they can hold it for 11 minutes. So unfortunately, by the time you get an ambulance that's available, it's up to 40 minutes. If we had one in town, you're getting to the patient within 8 minutes.
What happens if we have a problem with filling a shift? Who takes care of that? The director of the,
Director of the EMS,
right,
yes.
I wasn't sure if it was the fire marshal thing that we have now.
Fire marshal would have nothing to do with this.
Okay, all right.
Your fire marshal currently does respond to EMS calls during the day.
But not the fire marshal themselves. I mean, the secretary of the fire marshal's office who
No,
schedules.
secretary, the administrative assistant. This would be, the EMS part, this ambulance would be its own entity, having its own director of operations. It would not be attached to any fire department tasks.
Okay.
Dave, this ambulance and everything, and you said we'd have to, I know the EMTs are trained and everything, but is there extra training that goes into this to be an ambulance driver?
No,
Okay. And the ambulance will be parked at one of the firehouses?
be at the Main Street Firehouse.
Okay. Now, will they be a full-time person to be there? Or are they going to be a volunteer that will have to travel to?
No, it would be a part-time employment, and they would be at station, ready to go.
And he will be there,
Yes,
and then at nighttime, the next part-time person would come in?
Correct.
So it's 24?
there'd be one ambulance that's on 24/7, 365 days a year being staffed, and then there'd be a second one from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily, with the director of EMS being one of the members of that crew.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
The chair. Two things that stood out in my mind from listening to Chief Bromley's presentation. One is about revenue for the town. We're all for revenue for the town. But that isn't the main reason. The main reason is this, is providing the best standard of care for our townspeople.
Correct.
I myself am now in that neverland of between baby boomer and elderly, right? And the demographics show that somebody born from, I believe, the late 40s on up until the late 60s will be in that mix. I keep my ear open during the course of the week, being here and there, and I could say I have heard on 2 occasions where an ambulance being called for by police, fire personnel. One had a suicide incident, took over 30 minutes to arrive on scene because there was no ambulance available in the Waterbury area. And I believe this ambulance came from Bristol or Torrington. Then a friend of mine, more elderly than I, took sick. There was an off-duty policeman from another municipality in his house, and the wait for the ambulance to come to transport him to the hospital with an injured nose, an injured back, maybe a concussion. This man is in his late 70s. Took a half an hour to get to Watertown, wherever it came from. I don't think the delay of service the way it is now is acceptable, and I appreciate this presentation.
I agree. Well, my whole thing, and it's hard for me to come here and ask for this, but this is for the benefit of the residents of Watertown and Oakville to have the EMS care that they need when they need it. It's hard for me to listen to the radio and during the day when my EMS car is out at a call and the tone goes off for Middlebury, for mutual aid to Watertown, and then it gets past to Woodbury, then it gets past to Thomaston. And like I said, each one holds it for 11 minutes. And I just can't let that happen anymore. We have to do something to enhance the EMS services and give the townspeople what they deserve.
Through the chair. Chief, is it true that we at one time had to go as far as Seymour to get an ambulance to go to Watertown?
Yes, one night Seymour ambulance came to Watertown.
Thank you.
Couple quick questions. Can you just restate what you mentioned about the staffing as far as how many people you would need?
The proposed staffing, it would be 2 ambulances, one staffed 24/7, 365 days, and the other would be staffed 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 365 days. And the staffing would be part-time employees, and one of those employees would be a full-time EMS director that would be part of the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift.
Okay. And the type of calls, we wouldn't use this for lift assist and things of that nature, it would just be transporting to the
This would be,
hospital?
but lift assist would be, they would go out and lift assist because you can bill for, an ambulance can bill for lift assist.
Okay.
So, yes, they would be doing lift assist, they would be doing the non-emergency calls.
And is there any requirements to have a paramedic with the ambulance?
The paramedic, what you're calling is advanced life support, and what they call it is bundle billing. When you go in with a billing agency, you do bundle billing, and you have a contract with either Trinity or AMR, or right now they're starting up paramedics out of hospitals now. And you would have a medic come to your scene and they would be paid directly from the service.
Okay, so it wouldn't really be part of?
Right.
Our
Wouldn't be
ambulance
part of
service,
ours,
it'd
it'd
be
be
billed
an
separately.
intercept, right.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, quick question. So, which towns have ambulance service in the town, surrounding towns? It sounds like everyone has it but us.
Everyone has an ambulance but Watertown, yes.
So
Some are
Woodbury has it?
Woodbury has a volunteer.
Yep.
Middlebury has volunteer. Thomason has a paid volunteer.
Okay.
Naugatuck has a full-time staff.
Waterbury.
Waterbury has these 2 paid commercial services, AMR and Trinity.
Okay. Yeah.
Wolcott has their own, run by the town, all costed by the town, revenue-wise.
Okay, and then also you said that is the contract, if I heard you correctly, 10%, not greater than 10% can be of the revenue? Of the net
That's for
revenue
the town
from-
of Thomaston. Thomaston has agreement with their town that they fund them up ahead of time. They give them $64,500 at the beginning of the year as a budget, but they pay it back to them. And they usually pay them over $100,000 back. So to revenue back to the town. And whatever they make in their revenue, over 10%, they give back to the town. They only hold 10% for their association.
Okay.
And would the ambulance service be owned/operated by the town, or would it be a separate entity?
To be owned by the town.
Okay. And I'm assuming it would be like an enterprise fund type of thing? Okay.
Correct. That's what we discussed with the town attorney when we first approached this.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, one more question. Now, would this eliminate the emergency part of the fire department now?
No, it wouldn't. We would still have firemen respond to emergency calls. We would back off on non-emergency stuff.
And there's no other private entity that we can contract with that can get the ambulance services more efficient for us, or?
You could contract, but then you're going to talk hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay a service to come here and staff an ambulance. The nice thing is what happens with most ambulance services, they're funded by the town and work out of a building of the town, and that's how they're able to operate and give revenue and run cost-free. If you were on a commercial service, there's costs, overhead, building maintenance, all that plays into effect. So if you were to hire a contracted commercial service, you're going to pay for that.
Through the chair, one more.
Yep.
Chief, what do you think the response time would be having an ambulance in town versus coming from Waterbury?
From in town being staffed in the firehouse, you're 4 to 6 minutes.
And coming from Waterbury now, average?
Average is 10 to 12 if they're available.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Is there anything you'd like us to do to backfill this? Any work? Are you looking for more staff? Is there anything that we can do to help make a decision?
One thing that would help me is some of the towns that you mentioned, if we're able to get our hands on their budget, revenue and expenses, and also the upfront operating costs to purchase the ambulances. Or any other equipment for that matter.
Jonathan?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We got one more question for you, sorry.
Now, with this ambulance association coming, I mean, usually the fire department handles their own operations and that, so this is going to be separate from the fire department? It's going to be controlled by the town or
It'd be controlled by
Or-
the,
by the ambulance association? No,
Correct.
I
The
I didn't
ambulance
know if there
association.
was going to be a conflict like with the fire department's charter, or if they had to do a reorganization thing or anything like that.
No.
No.
Okay, you want to just touch base with our meeting that we have with the town attorney and just kind of roughly go through it? So we did have a preliminary meeting with the town attorney to address this, and those are some of the questions that we tried to work through. So the town attorney is aware, he's making sure that we would be on the right side, considering the charter for the fire department and positioning the town to be able to make this a enterprise fund, thank you. So we are working through those details. We just haven't hammered them all out at this point.
Just, I'd like to see data on the response times, maybe the past year or something, just so we have an idea of where we are now.
Okay,
all set?
that's it?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
And moving on, we have a presentation from the Facade Law Group related to a solar partnership.
So just to give a little background, I was approached by the Watertown Golf Club this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was smiling the whole time. I was approached by the Watertown Golf Club. They were considering trying to put a solar farm in the town of Watertown. And the Facade Group will give us a presentation just addressing if that project were to come to fruition, how we could benefit from getting a rate reduction on our electricity bill. They will go through the process. There is an opportunity if that project were not to go through this year, that we can get onto another project that is not within our town boundaries, and we can try to get a reduction in our electric bills. I did notice, just so it's up front in the newspaper this week, we were offered a 20% reduction in our rate. And WOCA was offered 30%, so if you could address that in the conversation, we'll probably save a lot of time on the end.
Yeah, I would be at 30.
Okay. And I think just one more point is, not that we have to make this decision, but there is a time crunch for the project for the Watertown Golf Club. If we were to consider this, we would have to enter into some agreement with that company before March 15th. That's why it was a rush to put this on the agenda, for you to at least hear it, and then we can make a decision from there. If we choose not to move that quickly, there may be another opportunity next year to take advantage of this program. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good evening. Thank you for having, letting me speak today. So my name is Paul Michaud. I'm an energy attorney, Michaud Law Group, focused exclusively on clean energy projects. And I work, one of my major clients is TreeTech Americas, which is an international solar company. They built some of the first solar projects in Europe and Germany. And they're based in Switzerland, and they have an American subsidiary. They have about a dozen projects in Connecticut, and their last virtual net metering project, which is close to like what this project is, We did 4 megawatts for the city of Bristol, and those projects are all now constructed and operating, and they're projected to save the city of Bristol $5 million over 20 years under the old program. So I just want to give you a little quick background there. We are developing several projects in Connecticut. My client, like what was indicated, there's a project at the Watertown Golf Club, which may be a good fit. So I just want to give you a quick background. So the old program, which was a 10-year program, they call it through Eversource Utility, it was a virtual net metering program. And it got oversubscribed every year for 20 years. For 10 years. And there's currently 60 towns on the wait list under the old program. And there's some money left over, so the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority is working to get them off the wait list. That program sunsetted on December 31st. So this is the new program. And it's pretty similar. It's a little less lucrative. It's more competitive. But the way the program works is Eversource and UI, depending what service territory you're in, for us, it would be Eversource. It's a competitive program where if we have, it's 20 megawatts each auction, and there's 6 years of auctions. So if you didn't go forward this year, there's going to be another auction next January, and then starting in January, it'll be twice a year, like January and June. So this isn't the only opportunity, but we at least want to make, and time is short. It is possible to get it in this year, but if not, we can always plan, if you were interested, in the next auction. So, because there's 6 years of auctions. I handed you a presentation. What it basically comes down to is we have a project that's off-site, in this case at the golf club. It generates energy. The energy goes into the grid. Eversource uses that energy for the whole grid. But what we're allowed to do under the program is we essentially, it's a public-private type partnership where they call it the SAM program. It's state, agricultural, or municipal. So those are the only 3 entities that can participate. And obviously, town of Watertown would be the M, right, municipal. And it includes school districts too. So the way it works is you have a remote system. It generates energy. And what happens is we match every kilowatt hour produced by that solar system to, for example, they call it a beneficial account. For example, this building would be an account. And so you match the production of that system to the usage of this building, 1 for 1. What happens is the solar developer bids into the program, and if we win the bid, and I have an example I'll talk about which will kind of bring it to life. If we win the bid, the purpose of the bid is to help construct solar projects. So we win the bid. Part of the money that it generates would go to build a system, and the other piece of it would go to the town because you're basically adopting the solar system, and you get a bill credit on the bill, for example, for 20 years. It doesn't cost the town any money. You're basically adopting a solar project. You have no legal, no insurance obligations, no liability whatsoever. And the reason for this program is Connecticut has a program where they want to go 100% carbon-free energy generation by 2040. So they're trying to replace, like, instead of building new gas-fired fossil fuel power plants, they're trying to replace it with solar, hydro, wind, all those things to help, instead. And so these programs are intended to help replace the fossil fuel with the clean energy. And we're at a point now where these projects, solar especially, is so competitive that it is funded by the ratepayers, but it's pretty comparable now to paying energy for a fossil fuel plant. So we're paying for these distributed generation projects instead of paying for fossil fuel. So it's kind of, it's just going in a different direction. So just to bring it to light, so that's the policy reason for the program. And again, it only applies to towns, cities, agricultural, and state agencies. I think the best way to kind of bring the project to life is I handed out a spreadsheet, and what this shows is this is the actual system at the golf course, so golf club. It would produce 3,980,778 kilowatt hours in the first year. And what would happen is, and as you can tell, there's a slight, solar panels go down a little bit in efficiency every year, slightly. So that's all factored in here over the years. And this assumes that my client, Tree Tech, would bid 12 cents. I'm not saying we're bidding 12 cents. That's a ballpark number. It's a legitimate type ballpark number, but the amount we bid would be super confidential because it's a competitive bid. But 12 cents is a good illustration. So, you know, based on that bid, if you look over to the right, the system, like total to the town, if we matched those kilowatt hours, for example, this is probably the size of maybe a school and a middle school, this amount of kilowatt hours. We have 10 or 12 projects, but for this specific project, if we could match this, for example, to a school or you know, really any town or school facility, and we need to match that production to the output. And say we bid 12 cents. The way what we're proposing is for the 12 cents for every kilowatt hour generated, the town would get 30% of that, and the Tree Tech would get, or the solar company would get 70%. And that 70% is used to actually help construct, own, operate, maintain the project for the life of the project. So just for this project alone, and this is a 2 megawatt project, the town over 20 years would save about $2.7 million. And it, just for participating in the program and agreeing to basically host, we call it hosting, but I call it adopting a solar project. And the other $6.3 million would go to help build the project. It's about $2 million a megawatt to build a project. So, just to build it alone. So, anyway, that's the way this would work. If you had more, I believe you have a lot more load than this, and there are other projects you could apply to this too. For example, there's a city that's actually going to do like 4 projects because they're a larger school district, and and the way it works from a practical perspective is, say you participated. This building, for example, would be a beneficial count. It would generate kilowatt hours. All of the kilowatt hours would go to the town. And then there'd be a separate agreement where you would pay Tree Tech a certain percentage of it as part of it. But 100% of it would go on as a credit to your bill. And a really important thing I need to mention is that it doesn't affect your current procurement. Like say you have a competitive supply contract with NG or some other company, none of that changes over 20 years. You continue to procure your energy from your competitive supplier or the utility. That does not change. You do that over 20 years. This shows up as a credit at the bottom of your bill only. So you continue to buy your energy, but for basically sponsoring a project, you get this as a credit. And that's basically how the project how the program works. The only, I guess they're trying to fix it, but the only technical problem or hurdle in the program is that under the rule, I'm not sure why Eversource wanted this, but The town would have to have an ownership interest where the solar system is. And I don't know if you do in the golf club or not, or who does, but what we've been doing is you would actually have to, and we have it all set up, but you'd actually have to enter into like a lease for $1, and the town would be completely indemnified, no obligation at all. And then, but you technically have an ownership interest in the land for $1 for 20 years. And then the golf course itself would have a separate agreement with the developer. So, and that's the thing that kind of holds things up, because then your lawyer needs to look at the lease, and we understand that. It takes a while to redo all that reviewing. But you would be subject to an agreement for these bill credits. So, I mean, that's kind of the program in a nutshell. And again, we are building the project at the golf course. You know, there are other towns that are interested too. They have several projects, and it's just, what's gonna happen is that it fills up every year because it's very popular, because the towns and cities basically get free savings on their bill for sponsoring solar systems. So, with that, I'll open up the questions if you have any.
Any questions? Yep.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. So you are in the process of building solar panels at the golf course, or it's going to happen?
So the step is, we are in the process of pre-development on the solar
Okay.
course. So what that means is our civil engineers have gone out, they've done their surveys, they've done the topo map, wetlands, and they've determined that we can build like a 2-megawatt project on that site. And so the way it usually works in solar development is, so now we know we can build a project. Next step is you need an off-taker, somebody to sell the energy to. And that's through these programs. And this
Okay,
program
that was
would
my
allow
question.
the project to sell the energy into the grid to Eversource at what we bid at.
Okay,
But it gets basically virtually attributed or credited to the town's accounts, even though it's remote.
okay.
It
All right,
doesn't
that's-
physically go here, but it.
Yeah, okay, that was exactly my question, is I was trying to understand what how we were involved, so that makes sense. So TriTech builds them, obviously it's a company trying to make a profit.
Yep,
So they take the electricity, sell it to Eversource, and then we get a share because we need to be involved because we're the municipality.
yes, and it's a competitive process, so not every project will win. It may take one, or like there's 2 auctions a year starting next year. So and the purpose, and it's competitive to bring the price of solar, and it is dropping a lot, right? It's pretty comparable with fossil fuel, and with what's going on in Europe and everything, there's going to be a spike in natural gas. What's nice about solar is that there's no price volatility with the solar, with the sun, like there is with gas. So it actually, at some point, the price points are going to go like way lower than natural gas because of what's happening in the world. And so it's actually, and it helps diversify the fuel mix and all that good stuff. So not to mention the environmental piece. But yeah, that's the whole reason for the program. We're trying to go 100% carbon-free by 2040. And the only way to do that is to incentivize this
Incentivize
program.
it, yeah. Thank you.
Any questions?
So you're contracting with the Watertown Golf Club, what's the benefit to
So
Watertown?
Yeah, Watertown, they basically, under the old program, they would get a lease. And the system is also going, the project's also gonna help, it's gonna offset their electricity bill.
So it's going to offset theirs as well?
Not through the system, but
Not through this?
through an agreement, yes.
Okay.
So, because under the rules, the town would have to do the lease with the golf course.
Right.
They're gonna get compensated through more of a commission
Okay.
equal to a lease.
From TriTech?
To TreeTech, yeah. There's no cost or monies from the town. You just receive the bill credits.
Yeah, so the town, Watertown Golf Club has done all this work, but they're relying on us to agree to this, is that right? Or they're gonna do it regardless?
They, yeah, so so they agreed to allow Tree Tech, the solar company,
Yeah,
to build a solar project there. And so it's really on Tree Tech to find the off-taker
I
to
see.
make the project work. So it's not really, the golf club, they want to be part of it,
yeah,
but it's really the solar company that's seeking an off-taker
yeah.
for these programs.
And
'Cause
you
we
can
do-
contract with us or another municipality for that project? Or it has to be with us?
Correct.
It has to be with us?
No, oh, no. It has to be a municipality, agricultural, or state within the same territory as Eversource.
And that, just one other question, that breakdown, that 30/70, is that negotiable?
Well, everything's negotiable. We started out at 20, we were working with another town and made the newspaper. So I don't know how high, 30 is a pretty, compared to other, that's a very good, 30% over 20 years of what we bid is a substantial amount for just basically signing a lease. $1 lease. So I don't know if I'd go higher, but we were started at 20, got talked up to 30 and made the newspaper. So I know you know, so
Yeah, so as far as the town or the golf course, neither of them are putting any costs up front. The
Zero.
upfront costs go through the Tree Tech, correct?
yes, the cost of this program funds everything, right? It funds the whole project, interconnection, upgrades, all the things it takes to construct, own, and operate and maintain the project. That's what this program
Funding
is.
through the state or?
This is through Eversource. This is through the utilities, Eversource
Okay,
and
so-
UI.
Okay, so indirectly Eversource is footing the bill up front. Is that?
Well, what's happening is the ratepayers, instead of purchasing like natural gas through Eversource, or through a competitive supplier, you're basically purchasing clean energy. And the prices, like, for example, if we were to bid 12 cents, and that includes, I gotta make it very clear, that's delivery and energy. So that's actually below market. And so we're just trying to diversify the fuel, not all, fossil fuel, make it more clean. So I think there's a good argument that it's actually saving ratepayers money in the long run, it will.
And in part of your presentation, did you mention that there was an old program and now this is the start of a new program that we're working with here?
Yes.
So when's the first bidding process?
It opened February 2nd, so it's open now. We only got the bid packages from the utilities 10 days before it opened, so that's why we're kind of behind the gun here. The close date is actually March 14th, not the 15th. It's March 14th at 1 o'clock. The bids close.
And with it being a brand-new program, do you foresee there being additional bidders compared to what it might be in the future?
Well, I think what's going to happen, again, so there's 60 towns and cities on the wait list under the old program, and some of them are going to get selected under the old program because there's money left over. But what's going to happen, so they're all waiting, and we're not going to know until April or May. They're going to pick them. So they're probably going to wait and not participate in this round. But what I think is going to happen is that next year, the ones that weren't picked, and it's probably going to be 10 or 12 and not 60, right? They're going to end up obviously moving over to this program. So what I predict is it's going to get much more competitive next year. That's my prediction. I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, but it's going to get really tough next year.
And other than the requirement of the town having some sort of ownership on the property, is there any other restrictions or strings attached that we would need to follow in the coming years?
No, there's only, the only agreements you sign are, it's going to be a lease for $1 that's fully indemnifies the town, right? That would be obviously reviewed by your legal counsel. And we have them drafted already. The second item is a certification from Eversource, which just allows us to bid as a team, as a public-private partnership. Everybody has to sign that. The third thing is the actual agreement where I call it a SAM agreement. It's similar to the old B&M agreement where that's where we agree that you're going to say, these are our beneficial accounts, we want to apply to your generation. We're going to have 30% of, if we win the bid, and then you have 70. That's the agreement that says that, and that's written too already. So those are the only items. Other than that, other than the $1 for a 20-year lease, that's the only thing that it will cost. Other than administratively, all of the bill credits go on your bill, right? So 100% of these credits go to you, because it's Eversource.
And then we write a check to.
Yeah, then you'll have, so there's that either quarterly or monthly, you'd have to write a check. So that's a little extra, but if you're saving 2 or 3 million just on one project, maybe worth it. So, but we have enough projects to actually match the entire load of your town. But this is the project that's before you. That's the most important right now, so, because they're in your town.
Any other comments or questions? Gary?
I know Eversource, with the residents, they were trying to get 20% of the town to become, solar within, I think, by 2025 or something. How long, so we would see a difference in our bill within the first year, a couple of years?
The way it works is when the project achieves, the project, if it wins the bid, we need to go to Connecticut Siting Council to get permitted, and then to Department of Energy Environmental Protection to get a general permit for stormwater, and then it gets built. It takes 90 to 110 days to build it. You start receiving your savings once the project achieves commercial operation, is delivering energy to the grid, and what happens is that Eversource issues a PTO letter, it's called, permission to operate. At that point, when our energy goes into the grid, that's when you start saving. It has to be built first in
And you're just gonna handle all the town buildings for now, in this?
We can, so what we need to do, and we have to do, we need the match. Like, for example, this project puts out 3.9 million kilowatt hours the first year. We have to it has to match. We have to get at least that many usage hours from your beneficial accounts in order for this project to be eligible. I know your town has a lot more than this, but there are other projects, if you were interested, you could match it to. But this project alone, again, would probably be at least 1 or 2 larger schools. I'm just trying to compare it to others, like City of Bristol where we did it. So,
Yeah, we have a couple, all our schools have the solar systems in there, not all of them, but a couple of them do in town.
Yep.
But now what happens, like, say, 5 years down the road, we find out it's not working out and we wanted to get out, is there a penalty?
It is a 20-year contract. Your facilities are allowed to fluctuate. For example, if you can close like say you close a school and you open up another building, that's fine, because once a year we're allowed to switch out accounts. So because schools close, buildings get moved, closed. Sometimes you put energy efficiency in the building, so the usage goes down. That's all allowed under the contract, but it is a real contract, so it is a 20-year contract, because the investors need a 20-year to make it bankable, so they can build the project. So, and it is a discount. So I guess it is a 20-year contract. You can't, once you're in, that's the term. So
What happens if there's a power outage? Do you call Eversource, you call you guys?
Well, yeah, you're still connected to Eversource, and you procured just like you usually do. So it really is no connection. If there's a blackout, whatever, that has nothing to do with our project, really, because you still procure all your energy from the grid. You stay an Eversource, delivery customer at least. So none of that changes. The only thing is, if we're not producing, you're not saving. The project's not making money and you're not saving money. It's gotta produce, right? So, into the grid.
Would we be able to get a copy of like a draft of the contracts, or maybe a copy of other towns that you've dealt with? Feel
Yeah,
free to
Yes. I
black
could
out
give-
some information if needed.
Absolutely, yeah. So I could give you the whole packet
Okay.
of all the contracts, and then I can show you what we did with, like, the best example, City of Bristol. We have, because those are all running now. That was under the old program, so it's a little different, but it looks kind of the same. But those projects, we have, that one included 2 projects in Bethlehem, 1 project in Putnam, and 1 in Bristol itself. And those 4 projects are generating energy for the city now, right as we speak.
Yep.
But I can give you that packet too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything else, Chip?
Yeah.
Brad?
How much property does a project this big take? How many acres is it gonna take for solar panels to make this?
So, these are super efficient panels, which is interesting. So the panels have gotten much more efficient. These panels are 2 things. They're 600-watt panels, and the old projects are like 210, 260, right? They're up to 600 now watt, and TreeTech only, because they're based in Europe, they do sun tracker, single axis track, so they track the sun. So they generate more energy than like a fixed mount. So on average, it's 4 to 5 acres per megawatt. For example, the project at the golf club is just, I think, about 11 acres.
11 acres.
Within the fence line.
You've mentioned the word bid several times.
Yeah.
Am I understanding you to say that this TriTech is bidding to do this project, and there would be others
Yeah.
also bidding?
Not to do this project, so this is TreeTech's project. Other solar companies have other projects around the state.
Well, I don't care about them. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out how you do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to find out. What is the bid for?
Yeah, so the bid is, they're trying to do solar at the cheapest cost possible, right? So what they're saying is, we're gonna take 20 megawatts worth of solar, but it's called a declining block auction. So what they're saying is, everybody can bid in their projects. You come up with your price for delivery and supply. Like, for example, and this is just an example, I use 12 cents. What they do is, they take all the bids from all the project developers, for all the projects around town, around the state, and the more expensive ones they put up, are lower, and then they go up to the cheapest. And they pick 20 megawatts, and when they hit 20 megawatts, they stop. So what it does is, it makes everybody put their best price for the project. It actually helps make it cheaper, right, for everybody, because it's competitive. There's no guarantee. So we're gonna win the bid. We gotta do our best to win. I will tell you that in last year's program, TreeTech bid 9 projects, and they won 8 of the 9. And the reason for that is because the advantage they have over like some other companies is that they distribute. Their holding company, or their mother company out of Switzerland, distributes panels, racking, and inverters. So what TreeTech Americas does is, they buy that equipment from their own company, right? So they're able to do it much cheaper, and that's where you can shave the price of a project down. Like, labor is pretty much the same everywhere, but they're able to procure, they have warehouses of panels, because they operate all over in South America, in Europe, here, but they're basically buying the panels from their own subsidiary company.
All right, I might suggest that either for us or for your next presentation, you do something in simple language for those of us that are not in your business to follow. Because much of the information that you're giving is very involved and very complicated
It is
to
complicated.
absorb in a 2 or 3 minute timeframe.
Understood. I do my best, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
As far as the bidding process, is it similar to, I'm not sure the name of the program, but the ZREC credits? Is this a similar process?
This is the successor program?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Through the chair, if I can.
Yep.
So at the end of the 20 years, who owns the system? And and who cleans it up?
Yeah, so under Connecticut law, the TreeTech posts a decommissioning bond. And so at the end of the life of the project, they have to remove it completely from the land. And there's a decommissioning bond posted to make sure they do that.
And does the land get restored to the way that it was with trees being planted or?
It gets restored, everything gets removed.
Okay.
And it's left, for example, it would be left up to the landowner, because this property is leased, so it'd be up to the landowner to do what they want, to do what they want with their land. But the system would be, see, this is different than, for example, a condo complex or a commercial, strip mall. The solar systems are removed completely. So there's nothing wrong.
Gary?
What happens if a company, like say it was TriTech who won the bid? What happens if they go out of business?
So that's a good question, and so what everything is funded through an investment fund, and the investors, obviously, they track through the inverters, through the website. They know exactly if there's any problems with the systems, and there's an operation maintenance company that actually goes to make sure everything runs 100%, because they won't get a return on their investment unless these projects are running. So what happens is, if for example, a company did go bankrupt, it would go to the investors, and they would assign it to another operator, because unless it needs to operate, so the investors get their return back.
Yeah, but would the price change then? Like say if it was 12 cents and if they went out of business and gave it to another company, would the price change, the bid?
No, because under the agreement, it's a 20-year agreement, you're locked into your amount for 20 years. And if it gets assigned to the the bank, they just step into the contract. It doesn't change your terms at all.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I do, John. You're the chair.
Yep.
I'm very familiar with the lay of the land at the Watertown Golf Club, and there's a bunch of undevelopable land on the northwest portion of the club. I'm assuming that's the site?
I actually have the site plan. It would be in the lease.
Okay.
It is northwest. It was identified by the civil engineers as probably the best first site.
Right, so that particular piece of property is undevelopable for a few reasons. There's a lot of wetlands in there. So does this project have to come through wetlands and zoning?
Because it's over 1 megawatt, under Connecticut law, it would go to the Connecticut Siting Council, not local permitting.
Okay, thank you.
My question quickly is, this 12 cents, is that what, comparable to what you've been doing? In other words, if this goes down, if you have to be more competitive, we get less money, is that right?
Yes, everybody does, right? So
Yeah.
we're splitting this, we're all like dividing a smaller number.
Yep.
This is a ballpark number. I cannot tell you what the actual bid, because it's competitive, but it's a
Yeah.
good, like, ballpark number.
Yeah,
It's a
it probably
reasonable-
isn't gonna go up though, right? It probably won't go up. It's gonna go down because it's becoming more
I
competitive.
cannot say either way.
Yeah, I mean, probably, right? Based on what you said, I would gather that. And then, so just to be clear, and then I'm done, 20-year, let's say that we win the contract at 12 cents. You do. It's fixed, right? It's not variable in any way?
It's fixed for 20 years for each kilowatt hour, based on that number up top there. So it's based on the production versus your usage, and it's fixed for 20 years. So you will know, you'll be able to budget that actually, once we win.
Yeah, and then the bidding is in the complete discretion of TriTech, right?
Yeah, so they need the bid to win. So, yes, they have, they're gonna try to, you gotta be in it to win, you gotta win it to be in it, right? So, there's a balance there, right? So we all wanna do better, like you wanna save more, they wanna make more, but it doesn't help if you don't win the bid, so there's that sweet spot, right?
No other questions? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time.
We will get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on. Now we're back to our subcommittee reports. And first on the list is a budget presentation from the library. And while you're not talking, if you guys could shut off your mics, because one, you could hear in the background, and two, there's only so many mics that can be on at the same time, and then people can't get on when they need to.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Brian Flaherty. I am the treasurer for the Watertown Library Association. Pleasure to be back before you. I'm joined by our assistant director of the library, Donna Rintelman, our president of our board, Deborah Weinberger, and members Ted Heavenrich, Kathy Porter, and Pierre Moran. And we're here to talk about an exciting year that we've been through and one that we have planned ahead. And so what we'd like to do when we come here is to remind all of you something that you already know, which is the great partnership that we have together. I'd like to say that books build minds, and people build libraries, and on behalf of our town, you have all helped build the success story from Main Street to Davis Street, from our main library to where the Davis Street Branch Library is. And just a quick reminder, in recent years, we have expanded, added the Woodward Atrium to the main library, $700,000 expansion, now has a temporary certificate of occupancy. There was a story time there today. Activity is picking up there, even as we look forward to having to make some repairs once and for all to the roof. And if you haven't gone to the Book Nook, get down to the Book Nook operated by the Friends of the Library Association down at the branch library in the renovated basement, because it's beautiful and you can't beat the books for the prices. So that's just a couple of things that we've done. If you look at the next slide, talks a little bit about performance. This past year we served 10,777 registered borrowers in Watertown, and I'll just cut to the chase. 46% of the Oakville and Watertown residents have a library card. That's 9 points over the state average. 45% is considered excellent. Now, we've been shut down. A lot of people, we're emerging from last year's COVID shutdown, and we have been reaching the people of Oakville and Watertown in many ways through curbside service, grab-and-go bags for children, expanding our electronic collection, virtual programs to be able to reach more people who can't come in and out of the door. And we're excited about that. We'd like to do this every year, and a lot of times when you want to say, okay, tell me a little bit about context. Do the towns around Watertown have library associations where there's a partnership with an association and a municipality? And how are we doing in terms of those other towns? So this is from the state library. If you look at library appropriations per capita in each town, we're kind of we're toward the bottom of the pack if you look at raw dollars. But Thomaston, $68.35. It kind of goes down. The statewide average there is actually fiscal 21. But at least it shows you where we are. And as we're currently in the fiscal year that we're in right now, 21-22, the appropriation that comes through the town, which is most of our operating money, is about, is 9.3% of the town's annual revenue in the current year. We believe we are a very careful steward of public resources. And if you look at the next, and also talk about kind of what roles do we play as a library association? What roles does the town play? We're responsible for all capital projects, and we get a great deal of help from that, from the local foundations that support us each year, and certainly from the Friends of the Watertown Library Association and all the work that they do, particularly now that's happening at the Book Nook. Over the last 10 years, we've spent over $1 million in capital funds, and there's the list right there. We also have done, Joan Rentelman was not here, and Donna, and their folks have done yeoman's work implementing some grants. We got a $33,000 Everybody Learns grant from the state, which was used to upgrade air quality at both Oakville and at the main library. We've got LED lights now replaced in both buildings, and once the atrium roof is finally complete, we'll be installing a hybrid tech system, probably not unlike this, where you can have in-person meetings and also have a remote component. If you look at the next slide, this is just kind of another trend line to show over the last 10 years the growth in the town budget. You all have done, again, you're stewards of our tax dollars. You work hard, and you do a fantastic job. And if you look at our library growth, we've stayed over the past 10 years at about a 6% overall growth, which is 0.6% a year average. This year, we've come with a request that's 2.5% higher than last year. We're in the middle of, I think in January, our inflation rate right now is 7.5%. And built in there, I think it's in the cover sheet and the information that we presented to all of you through Mark and from Susan in our meeting with the budget, talks about where some of that, what's driving it. We have learned since our original proposal that looks like our medical insurance increase is going to be about 3%, so we'll build that into it. But at 2.5%, it's far below the current rate of inflation, and if we're able to get it, and the voters at a referendum approve the budget that you finally adopt, well, we'll do everything we can, as we have in the past, to make very, very good use. We're excited to look forward to the being open, to doing more things, to having more capabilities, and to having you all come through our doors. And I'd be very happy to answer any questions and take any assignments back if you want to dig into any of the statistics that I may not be able to handle here today. So thank you. And thank you on behalf of our board and all of the patrons for the work that you do. It is a really great partnership. And I'm lucky enough to be the one to hear and talk on their behalf. They'd all pack the room and say thank you in person. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
I have a question. Brian, I know that the hours have been obviously different during the pandemic, but what are the regular hours for each of the branches?
Oh, this is a quiz. Donna, I would like to, with your indulgence, make sure that it's answered correctly by Donna Rentelman, please.
Certainly. Hello, Rachel. Presently, at the main library, we're open Monday and Friday from 9 until 5, or 10 until 5, I beg your pardon, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 until 7 p.m. The branch is open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon.
And for the benefit of people who may not have heard and may be watching, that's 10 to 5 Monday and Fridays, 10 to 7 Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays at the main branch, and on the Davis Street branch in Oakville, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 4. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
So never on the weekends?
No, but not now, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. Used to be, not yet. The Book Nook, however, is open on Saturdays. I know they're open on weekends.
Thank you.
Gary?
On the addition that was put on the addition that was just put on the main branch, that's completed, you said, and it's all set to be completed inside?
It is almost completed inside. We had the roof is not installed properly. And so we have been working very closely to find out what needs to be done to the roof and the gutters and the soffit. We're working with the contractor, and we've come up with a plan. And we believe as soon as we get a little bit better weather, it could be as early as mid to late April, you'll see the repair work taking place. The contractor's insurance company is paying for all of the costs. And then because we have some very new advanced electronics there, and that last couple of pieces we have not put in yet, just so we could not have to have it get damaged. So it's been a little vexing, and of course, we had COVID, and now we're stuck with some of the material delays and the supply chain delays that everyone else is reading about, and hearing about, and experiencing.
And one other one, please. In the two conference little sections, how many people do they hold? If someone wanted to meet there, how many people, because I know they're like half circles on two sides.
Right.
So how many people would fit into?
We'll make sure that gets, I think there probably one is about maybe 8, probably no more than 12 in the larger one.
I would suggest, Denise, that we would have that the fire marshal, when everything is complete, to review once again. But at this time, I would say certainly no more than 10 on either of the small rooms. The large space, the common area, the center, and the old legacy space, we can do 75.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, do you have some?
How many employees do you have there at the library?
We have currently, Donna, you should have come up with me. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 full-time at the library. Here.
Forgive me. At this time, we have 4 full-time employees, and we have 3 part-time employees, permanent part-time employees. There are seasonal workers that come in. Usually they're college students that return to the library. So it goes up and down a little bit. But presently, there are 7 of us in-house at both locations.
Also, and then, are you losing any membership at all through the online stuff, the computers?
No, I would not say we're losing membership, Gary. I would say it's transitioning a little bit. And what we are having is, foot traffic is certainly different, though we are open. We are fully open, but people have gotten used to utilizing our online services, which I think is tremendous. And we have added online services at this time. We added the Chilton database, which has all the car and truck things. It's updated monthly. The Value Line is now online, which is a more robust product, and we've gotten wonderful compliments about that. We have Miss Humblebee's Academy, which is a tool for kindergarten readiness. There are all kinds of computer programming classes on there. We've really upped our game in the online world. All of those products are available to any resident or any card holder. So we need to up our card holders again. And they can also utilize any of these services in-house. They also get the benefit of your librarians, who can train people and show people how to use them effectively.
Thank you.
Follow up on Denise's question.
Yes.
Are you allowing rental or use of that new area?
We will be. Presently, we worked with the building department, and we have a temporary certificate of occupancy, which we have been able to utilize very nicely over these winter months, and to work out any kinks and see what we might have to work about in our profile for how that space will be used. We're only using it for library programs and Friends programs. coming up, I will mention that on March 9th, the chief of police and one of his lieutenants will be presenting a program there on their trip to Mount Kilimanjaro. So that will be utilized. That is a joint Friends and library program.
No, so what you're saying is that an organization cannot call you up and use the room yet?
Not at this time.
Okay.
When we have the certificate of occupancy in our hand, the permanent certificate of occupancy, then we will very gladly welcome groups, individuals, et cetera, to sign up for this space. And to be clear, we do not rent the space. It is free to use, but they must follow certain regulations.
Right.
It's a wonderful space, and I do hope many people will come. Please come and see it.
We can't wait to have it back open, have people coming in and out and taking advantage of a place that's part community center, part school, part gathering place, exhibit space.
Yes.
And nobody will be happier than the people who came here tonight.
Any other questions, comments?
Just about the weekends, you said that, are you going to be open on, what's the plan with that?
We're getting our feet under us again after coming out and having everything opened up. At this time, we are not looking to open up on Saturdays. We'll go through the summer certainly without a Saturday. If we did do our weekend again on the Saturday, it would be in the fall.
Any other comments or questions?
And that would be only as it always was, at the Watertown Library. The branch has definitely limited hours, as we only have part-time employees down there.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the list is Town Clerk, Lisa.
Would it be okay if I go to the podium?
We don't have a microphone, do we?
I can talk loud. Ask my husband. Good evening. Welcome. All right, so I put together a little PowerPoint presentation because often people come down to our office and don't really know what we do. They just think we're the keepers of the records. We do a lot more than that. So actually, we are the hub of the town. If we can go, Lauren, to the first slide. Sorry, thank you. We are the oldest office in American history. It was created with the landing of the early settlers in America, so I can say I have a very old background. We serve as a direct link between citizens and our government. We are the custodian of official public records. We are the communicator of public policy, organizer of public business, the recorder of community's history. History is just so cool, and that's near and dear to my heart. I welcome and invite all of you to come and look at some of the really old books we have. Actually, Chief Berger came in, thank you, to check out one of our original books from 1780, and it just is a wonderful piece. We are records management. We organize, index, and locate records for everyone. We are public relations, especially for new businesses, new residents. They often come to our office. We are the 411. When in doubt, you call the town clerk's office. A good way to think about what we do is we are an important part in the phase of everybody's lives. We are the circle of life. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with The Lion King and the movie The Lion King, The Circle of Life. Someone like me, my birth record, registrar of voters. When I registered to vote, I can get my hunting and fishing license, sporting license, If I served in the military, I would record my DD-214, open a business, my trade name is there. I get a dog license. I get married, my marriage license comes from the town clerk. I purchase a house, my deed is with the town clerk. I take out a mortgage, a lien. I become a justice of the peace, notary. We record notary commissions, liquor licenses for businesses. We have a special part in the election results and the oath of office. And then hopefully not for a very, very long time, my death record will be here as well. Next slide. So this is just a pie chart on the average percent of time spent in a day on what duties. The majority of our duties goes to land records. Next slide. So with land records, we record all land documents, deeds, mortgages, releases, assignments. We record survey maps. We assist the public and locate information and copies for them. We're scanning index management, printing of the books, preservation and restoration. I actually have a grant going now with the Connecticut State Library. We're preserving one of our early books. It's volume number 8, and it'll be a showpiece. It'll be all encapsulated for people can actually hold, touch, and feel it, and actually see the original pen and ink and paper underneath. We collect state conveyance forms and forward to the State Revenue Department. Next slide. Vital records takes up a portion of our day. We record and index vital records, birth, death, and marriages. We issue certified copies for purchase, cremation, burial, disinterment permits. We index and management, preserve and manage them. And then there is a brand new state vital birth and death registry. There's still a work in progress, but we will be able to print anyone's birth record and anyone's death record going forward. It'll be a long time before we can go back in time, but moving forward we will. Elections is another portion of our day. We accept registration cards and check ID on behalf of the registrars of voters. We order ballots and supplies. We take care of petition papers. We receive them for record, verify voters, and send them. We refer to SOTS, it's Secretary of the State. Publish legal notices. Issue absentee applications and ballots, both mail and walk-in. We review election totals and reports. We meet with the registrars following elections to review results. We record those. We maintain what's called a town meeting book, and all of the election results and important happenings in the town are recorded in that book forever. We report all election results to SOTS and their tallies, and we complete vacancy and endorsement forms and communicate them to SOTS. Next slide. Dog licensing. The cycle in June is June to June. We order and stock the tags, paper, and envelopes. We print and mail reminders and licenses. We verify current rabies vaccination information and issue licenses and tags. We average about 1,400 to 1,500 dog licenses per year. And June is Clerk Comfortable Shoes Month because we're busy on our feet with those licenses. We also do a pet food collection for the food bank. Next slide. We also issue sportsman hunting and fishing licenses. We sell permits for them for certain game animals, private and state land. We issue free licenses for residents over 65, many of which do not have a printer or the capability of using a computer. So they're very happy that we still provide this service. Not all town clerks do, because we only keep $1 out of a license sold. And those that are the free licenses, obviously we don't make anything on that. It's a web-based program and no cost to the town. Next slide. Notary services and commissions. We record and maintain the files of Watertown resident notaries appointed by the state of Connecticut. We give oaths of office for residents who are notaries and register their commissions, collect fees to register their commissions, provide verification and certification of registered notary, and we do provide limited notarial services for the public, anything that is not a conflict with the work we do in our office. Next slide. Veterans discharge papers, they're also known as DD-214s. We record, scan, and index those. We issue certified copies to veterans and families in their funeral homes. A veteran, we really instill that when we see young gentlemen and women who have served and come into our office, we encourage them, wherever life takes them, make sure they take that DD-214 and file it in their town clerk's office. There are many benefits that they can receive, and they won't be able to be buried with military honors if a family member can't locate them. So the funeral homes often call us first for those documents. We work with the tax assessor to assure that the veterans get all of their exemptions. We preserve and restore them. And most importantly, we thank every veteran for their service. Next slide. Some of our miscellaneous duties. We register and maintain new business trade name certificates. We register, stamp, and collect fees for liquor licenses. So anyone who operates with a liquor license in town must register it with us in our office, and we collect a fee for that. We issue and record the oath of office for all elected and appointed officials. We provide proof of life and residency for Watertown residents that have worked previously outside of the country and collect a pension. So we actually verify they have to come before us to prove that they are alive and reside in our town. We stamp and post agendas for public meetings and special meetings. We receive in for record for public meetings and special meetings, maintain and update all the ordinances, the town meeting book. We do various reporting and communication with the Secretary of State's office. Some of our general duties, telephone, in-person communication, POs, RFPs, your basic office duties. Records retention. We follow the records retention that is put into place by the Connecticut State Public Records Administrator, and we apply for a grant annually through the Connecticut State Library. So some of the fees we collect. There's various land recordings. The portion that stays in our town is most of what is interest to you. Out of a basic recording, we call a $60 recording, the town actually retains $16 of that. For a what we call a MERS nominee, we retain $32. The nominee other, we retain $49. To record a survey map, it's depending on if it's a subdivision or not, $20 and $30, and that entire amount the town gets to keep. Dog licensing, we only get $1. Marriage licenses, which we actually did 2 today because people wanted to get married on 2/22/22. So we had 2 people come in last minute to get their license. We retain $16 of that. We issue certified copies of vitals, and those are $20, and that money does stay in the municipality. Local conveyance tax, that's our big ticket item. Out of every business or house that sells in our town, the town gets 0.0025%. So an average house that is $200,000, the town gets to keep $500 in a local conveyance tax. Next slide. Notary commissions, filing is $20, the town retains that. Liquor permits, the same. Burial, cremation, and disinterment permits, the funeral homes pay us $5, and that stays in the town. And our sportsman licensing, we keep $1. Trade name certificates, we get $10. And copies of maps, depending on their sizes, we keep the entire amount. Next slide. So last calendar year, I'm happy to report, our office actually collected and netted, this was net for the town, $568,976. So that money we collect actually stays here. And to the right, you can see the breakdown. Land recordings is a big dollar amount. That's just land record copies. By statute, land records are $1 per page. That in itself, we've collected $27,278. Land recordings itself, $180,000 stayed in our town. And the town conveyance, that was our big ticket item, $330,000. Next slide. So in summary, you could see that we actually are the wearer of many hats. Our duties are various. At one point, I think it's been noted we do over 100 different duties, various duties unrelated to each other. And down to the meat and bones. So for our budget, with reference to salaries, we have 2 white-collar workers, and they're under union contract, and then there is myself. If you have any questions on salaries, I would say Sue can probably answer those questions. But for actual line items, the overall, I don't know if you want to go line by line, but I do have a small increase over what I asked for last year, and that increase is $545. Basically, it's just a readjustment in each of the line items. I'd be happy to go over them line by line if you wish, but the overall increase was just $545.
Don't need to go into detail.
No need.
Any questions?
Any questions? Gary?
On your land records fees there?
Can you turn your mic on?
On your land records fees, it says $60 and you get 16.
That's what
town
the
does.
town keeps.
Yeah.
We collect a lot of monies that go to the state. And a $60 recording goes in a lot of different directions. $3 of it goes to a low SIP fund, $10 and $16 go in another direction, $36 go in another. So most of it, we're a pass-through to the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, but for each additional page, it says $5. We don't get
Right,
anything out
that
of
we
that?
do get, that's why it's 16 plus. We do
Oh,
get the $5. So if it's more than one page, it's 60 for the first page and 5 for each additional of that recording. We do retain that $5.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair. Are these prices set by somebody? Is it set by
Yes,
the
set by
town?
statute.
By statute.
So this is across the board, across
So
the state.
we don't have an option to raise or lower or anything? It
No.
is what it is?
It is what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one other quick question.
Sure.
And, you know, I do think this is such an important department for the town, might be one of the most important, although many are important. But I see here the net, 568, 976. I just want to ask, when you say net, that's not net after the expenses of the town for that department?
Correct. That's what we brought in
That's
that
like
the
gross.
town retains.
That the town retains and then
The
the
town
town pays
retains
for the
minus
department?
whatever it costs for our employees
That's-
to operate our office.
No, I
Correct.
understand, that's fine, and it's still a net benefit, so that's really a
Yes.
great thing, but I
Yes.
just wanted to clarify, because I wasn't sure actually about that.
Right. That's
so.
why I went this route this year, because I don't think a lot of people realize that we do bring in a lot in fees for the town.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair. Do you think that the town conveyance fees were a little bit higher for 2021, given the housing?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. The last few years, we have done so much recording, the sales volume has been up, and prices have been up, so that increases the conveyance as well, the volume and the prices.
Not my fault. It might be. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
And next, we have the Register of Voters.
I'm going to stand right here because I'm getting stiff. I'm old. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yeah, just speak up. We can hear you.
Okay. My name's Sally Cushlas. I'm a new registrar for this particular budgeting year. We were all new in the office as of August 2021. We went through an election, and now we're all learning all the specific statutes and what we need to do. Unfortunately, it's a very big ticket item. The registrars have to be certified through the state. Each course we take, we have to take a total of 8 courses. They're $300 each. And after that, we take an exam for $200. If we all go through the certification, plus all the other things that we need to do, it's $8,420. The reason why the registrars don't only go through this certification is because in case of an emergency, the deputies, there are only 4 of us in the office. There are registrars and there are 2 deputies. The deputies are supposed to take over for the registrars. So everyone should be aware of all the statutes, all the details, everything that happens. I've attached to this actual description of our duties. There's a computer program we use that's called CVRS. When you go to register, you fill out a paper document. That paper document is filed in a fireproof cabinet, but then we have to transfer all that information into the Secretary of State's computer program. If anyone wants to see it, it's a beautiful program, state-of-the-art. You can look up any specific voter, when they voted, when they didn't vote, not how they voted, of course, because our ballots are secret, but you can call up any kind of collection of things. If you want everyone who was born on a certain date and to see whether they voted or not. Actually, you can Google that. If I want to see if Mr. DeBona voted, you just Google that and you can see which elections he voted in. That information is taken from the Secretary of State's database. It's called CVRS, the Connecticut Voters Registration System. It's not easy to learn how to do it, but eventually everyone becomes proficient. That's one system that we use. We're mandated to have open hours in the office, but the 3 hours that we're there a week don't even begin to account for all the things that we need to do. It's not difficult, it's very time consuming. So unfortunately, I just have to report everything we're doing is going to cost more money, and it's mandated. So the training itself is the big ticket item, over $8,000. And then we had a couple of things that we weren't doing up to the statutes. All the records of the elections are supposed to be kept locked under the, only under the control of the deputy and the registrar and the deputies. We have a supply closet that at least 4 people have a key to. It's a skeleton key, and anyone could get in and out of there and go into the ballots or the whatever is in there. It was like, I didn't believe it. I was working at night, and a janitor came in. I had the doors locked because I was here alone. And he opened the door, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm here to pick up the garbage." I said, "You have a key to open all the doors?" He said, "Of course." So there are at least 4 people, aside from the registrars, who had access. So the security was nil. And what we did, hooray, was we used existing equipment. If you look at a file cabinet, a metal file cabinet with a lock, it's over $5,000. One little piece of equipment. Why? Anyway, we had cabinets with broken locks, and the maintenance people here at the town hall came and put locks on them, and it cost $30. So we're trying to save money that way by reusing things, but unfortunately, there are things that are really expensive. Every 10 years, everyone knows that there is a thing called the census. As a result of the census, we go through redistricting. The redistricting has been finished. The new program they have, in the past, you used to have to take a map and snake out the different roads and everything else. Now it's all computerized. But before we actually sit down in the Registrar of Voters' office to do the redistricting, the town council has to okay everything in case you want to change things. There is someone here in Watertown that was privy to all of the arguments and things that were going on at the state capitol. I don't know who that is, but we actually have to sit down with that appointee to make sure that that person understands where the lines are drawn. I don't know if you've seen them yet, where the lines have been drawn and everything else, to see if we can go ahead with that. I don't think that'll take a lot of time because of the new program that they put in the system. But there are lots of other things that are time-consuming. As far as the elections go, I'd like to save money 3 different ways, and I know this is going to be shocking to everybody. It is okay for this, as according to the Secretary of State and the legislature, to reduce the number of polling places. And the only time I would recommend doing that is either for the budget referendum where we have really low traffic, or if we have a secondary vote for the budget referendum. I think if we educate the public and people understand that for the second vote, you're only going to vote at the high school, we can save a lot of money and time instead of having all those multiple poll workers who, to tell you the truth, when I worked at a poll for the budget referendum, most of the day you're just sitting there because the turnout is so low. Another thing that the registrar is tasked with that hasn't been done in the past is voter education. You would not believe the kind of telephone calls I get. Hi, I'm registered a Republican. Do I have to vote Republican every time? It's like, no. You're registered. You can vote your conscience. I have other people who will come in and say, my mother's old and she can't get to the polls, so she can't vote now, right? Well, this was a Democrat who didn't want his Republican mother to vote, but that's another story. I said, no, she can vote by absentee ballot, and there are other things. So people don't understand really what's involved with voting. And what I'd like to do is put something on our website. Yeah, you have to be an American citizen, number one. People think because they reside here that they can vote. It's like, sorry, you're not a citizen. A citizen over 18 years old and a resident of Watertown, and you can vote. People don't really understand those kind of simple things. So it's a task that the Secretary of State said we should do, voter education, but the basic, most simple things, the regular Joe, whatever you call them, Joe Public, Joe Cube, they don't understand. So I think this is my town, as it is everyone's town. I think we can make improvements without spending too much money, but there are places, unfortunately, that we do need to spend money. The price of the ballots is going up, but we don't have to order 10,000 more ballots that we end up sending through the shredder. I think we can say, okay, we have 15,000 voters, 20% vote, we'll order 5,000 ballots instead of 15,000. No reason to do that. It's just extra paper. Unless, and I know people can laugh at this, we had extra ballots from the last presidential election. The last presidential election, I think, was historic in lots of ways, but I suggested, just tongue-in-cheek, let's sell those ballots. If we sell them for $2 a piece, people will have a memento and will make money. It was a joke, but there's no reason to have 5,000, 10,000 extra ballots. They cost 35 to 45 cents each, and it ends up saving money. So my money-saving ideas are to try to cut down the number of polls or people working at the polls. You probably know when you go to the poll, you have 2 checkers, A through K and L through Z. Sometimes when it's slow, you only need one of those people. You don't need all the additional ones. And the other thing is to have them do split shifts. There's no reason why you cannot have them do split shifts. A 15-hour day. When was the last time anyone worked 15 hours? The police don't count. Oh. When was the last time anyone? Well, yeah, you don't count either. You're one of a kind. But to expect, and this is the 15-hour day, 5:15 a.m. is the latest they can be there, and they work until 8:15 without getting paid for lunch and with only minimal breaks. So I say, forget the lunch thing, have them work half days and have a little bit of overlap, and that way they can just review everything that went on. And instead of the people saying, oh, no way, every time I talk to a new person, a younger person about working 15 hours, They don't want to volunteer. So the older people who have been doing it for 20 years, I don't know how they do it, but they still do it. So I think the idea is we'll save some money and some pain, especially for the registrar of voters when we're trying to find people to work at the polls. And with proper education, I think especially if we have a second referendum vote, we should cut down the number of polls. It just makes sense. And that's it. Sorry if everything's going to cost more.
Just a quick question for you. On your budget, you have a new line item for event meals for $4,000. What?
I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're referring to.
How about the furniture dash office line item for $1,000? I know you mentioned cabinets and stuff, but it seemed like that issue's resolved with new locks, or
I
is...
just found out today that I wasn't going to have someone with me to review the budget, so I threw this stuff together myself. I don't know what you're looking at. May I see it? Is that something that was discussed weeks before? Yeah. Okay, yeah. The only thing we may need is a new chair for, unless it's fixed, for one of the deputies, but we don't need any furniture. I've been saving money by shopping and bringing stuff in from home, an old cabinet for an old bookshelf. We needed a coat rack, so I went to Make a Home. If anyone hasn't been there, it's like a museum. It's in Waterbury, right next to the river. What's the address there, Sal? Chase River Drive. It's an old factory. It used to be a brass factory. It has 3 floors of stuff at unbelievable prices. So the thing is, instead of being a burden to the town, reduce, reuse, recycle. See this paper? We ran out of paper. I used to work at the Yukon Health Center. I had this old paper. I use this paper. There's no reason for us to go through buying fancy things when it serves no purpose. So anyway, I think, no, we don't need office furniture. We don't need office furniture. We don't need, the computers are all new. The printers are new. Everything else. The only thing we do need, unfortunately, my husband and I went out and marked, it's a federal law and also a state law that you have to be 75 feet from the polls. That's politicians. There's no, supposed to be, and I wouldn't use this sign because I don't think regular people, electioneering, we don't use that terminology. The kind of signs that are available, these things cost $45. You believe it? $45? So no, we're not going to do that. This costs nothing. These are old poles that, not poles, old sticks, dowels that were used for, Boy Scouts used to make arrows out of them, but we just made these. And additionally, this costs $20. And what we were going to do in the places, everyone may be like aware that most of our polling places have areas that are made out of cement or either sidewalk or road, and there's no way to put up a sign. What we did was we took a, no head. Tape measure. Thank you. We took a tape measure, and what you're supposed to do is make an arc from the front door to get into the pole, and we went like that, and we went to Judson Swift, the high school, and we put these things out. But if anyone knows Swift, like right outside that door, and even the high school, there's that giant walkway. So what we were going to do is have these things that say 75 feet and somehow attach it to somehow make sure that it doesn't fly away, probably by using a cinder block and something to hold it to the ground, because there's no way to put a pole and everything else. So we'll save money where we can, but yes, you have a comment?
You have a question?
Yeah, I just, and then I think Herm has a question too. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead of you there.
No, it's okay, I don't care.
No, quick one, oh, go ahead, no, go ahead. Go ahead, no, go.
With all respect to the registrar.
Turn your mic on.
With all respect to the registrar, the expense is one thing. We're all here, obviously, to save money, maybe to use that money in other aspects of town government. However, aren't we here also to encourage people to get out there for their vote? And from this, my experience voting and running for office, I think the average voter in town, besides their age, besides whatever, they would not know what those flags were unless there was education done prior to the election. And also, well,
No.
we might be preaching to the choir on that. Not everybody is available to use, go online and Google your office, get directions on how to go about doing this. So it's admirable what you're trying to do, and good luck doing so. And I'm just curious, the gentleman in the audience, I didn't really know who he was. And for the record,
Am I
he was
supposed to
providing
introduce-
input to, I never met him. Who's the gentleman right there that you keep alluding to?
Would you please stand up? This is my husband, his name is Salvatore Luciano. You
I'm
please
sorry?
stand up. This is Bernie Karaski, he's my deputy. I'm sorry, we're not.
No, he's your deputy, right?
This
Yes.
is my deputy, Bernie Karaski, we're
Yep.
both Democrats. And the other, well, unfortunately, Sue Turmel's not here, she's on vacation, she's the Republican deputy.
And I was the mechanic, so I was the person responsible for trying to make sure we had the 75-foot
Right.
signs.
Sir, we were all, to the chair again, we were all well aware of that in the previous election. That's for the sake of having the standards of election being respected by both sides of the aisle, both parties, or the third party, whatever, so anything helps. Thank you, thank you.
But again, to my point, education is supreme. Some people think that we arbitrarily decided to put up 75-feet signs. Some of the people who are new to voting, who may not be young, but it doesn't matter, they're new voters. This has been a federal regulation since, I don't know, since people were not allowed to give voters drinks to go into the poll. This 75-foot rule, and the reason why the Secretary of State, the legislature mandates that there are signs. We didn't have them at the high school because they have never been at the high school because there's no way to stick a metal thing into the ground, and the other things were, it was a windy day, they were blowing over. So the idea is to try to put, this is just one little thing. Voter education is supreme. If it's not good at the website, maybe we can do something in the town times. I still read the Waterbury Republican American every day because I grew up doing that. I'm older. Do young people read the newspaper? No. I talk to my neighbors who are in their 30s, and she said, I didn't know it was going to snow. It's like, didn't you watch the news or read it? No, they don't do that. But anyway, education is important. Yes, I'll stop now.
I just want to remind everyone that we're discussing the budgets here for each department, so the,
Okay, the reason why this is
Yes.
important for the budget is because this is not going to cost us money.
Yep.
And I'll stop.
So just a
Anthony?
quick question on the budget. Oh, go ahead, Herm.
No, very good point.
Oh, it's, so you're gonna send us a revised, are you gonna send the town manager a revised budget then?
I
Or
imagine I
is someone
should.
gonna do
I
that?
imagine I should.
Yeah, because, yeah, it sounded like some things changed. No, I think you have good idea, I think those ideas were great. Now, do those ideas, but they have to, obviously have to comply with Connecticut law, so like the signs,
True,
I don't know if
true.
there's a certain size that needs to be, but I don't wanna digress into that.
Don't worry, I'll follow the regulations.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
but those cost-saving ideas, now that's something that has to come before us again, that we have to vote on, or is that something that you're gonna implement? Is that gonna be in this budget, or is that for next year's budget, or?
Got to be approved by the town.
I think the Registrar of Voters, if I understand correctly, My directive comes directly from the Secretary of the State, directly. I operate because there is a need to have a local person, carry out the election laws. If you do not like something I'm doing, I can present it to you and you can say, let's try it a different way. Like if someone really finds it offensive or confusing that there would be only one poll instead of 4, then we wouldn't do that. But I think with proper education, we can do those kind of things. Again, I mean, it's a big change, especially for the older people, the people who have been voting, but I think, again, with education, it can happen. As far as the budget is concerned, there will be new line items done, yeah.
Mr. Chair, and I just want to give a few explanations to the budget. So the registrar, starting with line item number 1, registrar fees, we did bump that up a little bit to keep the distance between what the poll workers were making and the registrars. So we wanted to keep that distance between those two and the deputy registrars. We did increase the election workers line item to stay in line with the increase in minimum wage. I believe it was $1 above minimum.
And the number of events also.
And the number of events, so we had a small increase there. In our initial meeting with Ms. Kuslis and the Republican Registrar of Voters, we had discussed event meals. So basically, our poll workers show up, they spend the whole day there, and they're credited, I believe, $10 to bring food. We didn't feel, based on what we're paying, we felt that we should provide some type of meal, and we talked about adding that line item in there. So $4,000 would cover one meal per day per polling place. That was the reason for adding that. If Mrs. Kuslis doesn't believe, Ms. Kuslis, I apologize, feels we could take the furniture out, we had talked about the need of having more locked cabinets, and that's why we threw $1,000 in there so that we could maybe add an additional locked cabinet if needed. If she doesn't feel we could discuss that during the week, I could take that out of the budget.
Marianne?
Some of the items or the issues you brought up are certainly worth considering, the reduction in need for number of polling places, et cetera. But I would be adamantly opposed to cutting back on the signs with regard to 75 feet and voting and using little red flag things. The only people that applies to are the people running for election. Everybody else, every voter, doesn't have anything to do with voter education. Everybody running for election knows they can't go any closer than 75 feet. Anybody that's been nominated is well aware of that, so I think that's something that would be a bad change to make.
Excuse me,
Let me finish, please.
Okay.
I'm concerned also in reducing the number of ballots. Maybe reducing it some is a very good idea, but I wouldn't reduce it drastically, because the last thing we need to do is not have sufficient ballots and have a problem. We've never had that kind of an issue. We don't need to start now. But I guess my big question is, none of this can be implemented without agreement by the other registrar. That's a dual office, one Democrat, one Republican. Does the Republican registrar agree with all of this?
We don't have a Republican registrar.
We don't right now, but we did up until, what, a week ago? So are these recommendations just from you?
The majority of them are, because I was always met with, we don't do it that way. What was I going to say?
All right, so until we get a Republican registrar in there to go over these with you, we're not going to see any changes.
That's true, because it's a nonpartisan office where you work together to make sure that the integrity of the vote is withheld. So I say these are changes that we can institute to save money, but right now we're
We're on hold.
True.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Gary?
I give Ms. Kushis, it's great that she's taken a lot of cost-saving measures, but It'd be nice if all the department heads can do the same thing, but we're not really getting a true expense budget, what it's going to cost to run the registers of voters. But some of your items that you're suggesting, like the 75-foot flags and that, I think that, you know, like I said before, we can use our high school for some of these projects and that. And then with the concern about security of your office, it's good to have the lock cabinets, but maybe with that $1,000, we can probably look into maybe putting a thing on the door where you have to have access, like you had to do, get into the building here or whatever, or what we have at the firehouse, you know, so you know who's coming in and out of the place when you're not around. So that's all I have to say.
That does bring to mind, what are the hours now, currently?
What are the hours
What
now?
are your hours currently now?
We're opened Monday and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., except my deputies work in 8 to 11, but because of the pandemic, I didn't want to be in the building, so I was working before everybody came in or after everyone left. But I was working, and there was someone in the office. Again, it's not a 3-hour-a-week job. You can't even get through the motor vehicle changes. What happens when you go to the motor vehicle, they register you as a new voter or a change of address or whatever, and you can't, 3 hours is not enough to get through that one tiny part, never mind the registrations that are coming online, the registrations that come from the office.
Right.
So we work many more hours than 3, but those are the official office hours you're supposed to post.
8 till 11.
With the secretary, 8 to 11 on Mondays and Thursdays, that's right. And just to clarify, this wasn't going to be done away with. This was to supplement what we have. This was a money-saving change, not a change to do away with, but
Okay.
just so you know that. But
We have published hours on our website
that's right,
for the office. Is that
that's right,
Monday? And those are the hours we have published.
right, yeah.
Okay.
On the county Watertown Registrar Fees.
Is there any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. And number 4 on our list, we have economic development. Hello.
I've already taken my mask off because hearing aids and masks don't go together. So. Well, good evening. For those of you I've not met, my name is Joe Sechrist. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for the town. I am a one-man department. I call myself a one-man band, and I am half of a one-man band because I work part-time. So I will cut to the chase for a couple of reasons, not the least of which we're closing in on my bedtime. So the other of which is I know that the police chief is sitting back there patiently waiting for us to get to him. And as you can see from my line items, my budget is not all that complex anyway. I am pleased to report, by the way, that this week we've added a new manufacturing business to the town. A company called PACT is taken 50,000 square feet in the former Emerson building, which is next to the Crystal Rock building. And they're moving in, they're supposed to have started the 1st of March. So that's good news for us. We continue to have businesses. Now, if I were in your shoes, I would look at my budget and ask, and I'm presuming, there are 2 line items that kind of stick out to you, and one of them would be the Advanced Connecticut Services for $10,000. And the other one would be at the bottom there, the business facade improvement cost sharing for $15,000. Are those two that you would like for me to address or no?
Yes, please.
Okay. The first one up there, the Advanced CT Services for $10,000. That is for, because I am a half of a one-man band, I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of services that I think the town needs. So we hire out, we try to work with other companies to do things. That $10,000 is dedicated, we hope, if it gets approved, to continue to develop a new marketing plan for the town. The purpose of that is to promote the features and benefits of Watertown, of which there are many. And I've been working with Mark Remo and Joe McGrail and I with a firm through Advanced Connecticut to develop a marketing plan that would promote the features and benefits of Watertown. And there are many of them that I don't think a lot of new businesses coming into town know about. It will promote them to the existing businesses, the new businesses, and certainly to the citizens of this town, who I don't think are aware of all of the features and benefits that the town has. Advanced CT, if you know them, we've worked with them before. It's a public-private enterprise. They did some work with us to help us decide what would be to the advantage of the town to use the Sealy property. They completed a project for us that we presented to Planning and Zoning that was useful to the owners and Planning and Zoning for the use of the Sealy property. They also completed for us a rather detailed plan for the need in town for rental housing. There's a serious need in town for additional rental housing. And they completed that plan, and we have that, and we've shared it with Planning and Zoning, and I think with you folks, but we certainly have it if you'd like to see it sometime. So that's what the $10,000 is for. If you approve it, obviously, if we don't need to spend $10,000, we're not going to. We're in the process of negotiating that with Advanced Connecticut. The business facade improvement for $15,000, that's a project that our downtowns in Watertown and Oakville are certainly old and faded. And the businesses, frequently when we talk to them, they suggest to us, well, you guys don't have any, the town doesn't have any skin in the game. Why should we improve our facade if we can rent the facilities and not do anything? And in the process, they get old and faded. And I've researched a number of other towns, and we have put together a rather detailed cost-sharing program with business owners if they would like to do it. And I have a very detailed plan that other towns have successfully implemented. The maximum cost sharing would be $1,500 per business. Not a lot of money, but it's something. The businesses would have to spend whatever they're going to spend, and we would match up to $1,500 for each business. For $15,000, that would allow us to match 10 businesses. I doubt that we would get 10 in the first year, but $15,000 would allow us to match up to 10 businesses. This is a dual request. I've also asked for $15,000 from the ARPA funds. And you guys are, I think, probably not later tonight. It's on your agenda, but I doubt you'll get to that. I've requested it from the ARPA funds and for our line item here, wherever it goes. If it goes from the ARPA funds, I would remove it from a line item. If it doesn't go from the ARPA funds, I would request it from this line item. So it would be $1,500 maximum for any business. They would have to meet all of our requirements. They would have to apply for the funds. We would have to make sure they did what they said they were going to do. We have some design requirements they would have to meet in order to qualify for the funds. So that's an explanation of those two items. If you have any questions about those or anything else, I'd be delighted to answer them for you.
Any questions, Gary?
we're paying $10,000 to the Advent Services. Why are we paying another $800 for dues? Right, a couple of lines below it.
Oh, I think those
Or
are dues.
$1,000 for dues?
Those are dues. That's an annual due we pay to CERC.
Is that to belong to the organization? We have to pay that every year to belong
Yeah.
to the,
That is for what is called Site Finder. That's a subscription service that allows the town of Watertown to list, if you go on our website and you look for available commercial industrial properties in the town, it lists every available rental purchase property in the town. I think we're currently listing about 30 to 35 of those, and it's updated by CERC. And it's available for anybody in the United States, anywhere that is looking for property in Watertown. So when somebody calls me and says, is there space in Watertown? I direct them to that particular site, and it costs us the $800 a year to subscribe to that service.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
sorry.
one last thing.
sorry.
So I applaud you for this, this facade idea. I think that's exactly what the town needs to do. Whether we can afford to do it is a different thing, but I think it's well overdue myself.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's, the town is getting, I call it a little, it's tired and a little dowdy. And it's, with the ARPA funds, I've also suggested a thing called a streetscape for the ARPA funds, and that would be replacing all the sidewalks in downtown Watertown and Oakville with the ARPA funds, not in this budget, but the sidewalks in downtown Oakville and Watertown are frankly a disgrace, and they're unsafe. And I'm surprised we have not had a number of slip and fall suits because there are frost heaves and everything else. The sidewalks, the streetscape, combined with the facade would be a very nice addition to really reinvigorating downtown Watertown and Oakville. So, but that's all a decision you folks will have to make for the funding. Okay, thank you. Now, can I go to bed now? Yep. Okay.
Please go on.
Next, number 5, police and communications.
Yeah, I've got it. Bigger. Yeah, a lot bigger.
That's a lot of ink.
All right, good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of Town Council, it's my pleasure to present to you this evening the Watertown Police Department's fiscal year 22-23 budget presentation. Lauren, if you could go to the next slide. Oh, we're there. The slide you see before you is it's a bit busy, but this shows you the department's 6 budgets. The police department's made up of the administrative budget, the patrol detective budget, the maintenance and support budget, traffic budget, the animal control budget, and the communication budgets. The slide before you shows the original department proposed budget to the town manager, which proposes a 6.2% increase of $361,126. If we go to the next slide. This slide shows the town manager recommended budget numbers, showing a 2.54% increase of $148,087. I'll explain the differences between both of these proposals. Next slide, please. What I find very interesting is if you take the total amount, and we'll use the town manager recommended total budget of $5,976,091 as the total operating proposed budget for the Watertown Police Department, 89% of that number, which is $5,320,371, all are personnel costs, mostly contractual. And others involving things along uniform and other items directly required for the personnel that are mostly contractually required. Only 11% of this overall budget, which is $655,720, accounts for everything else that we have at the police department, from vehicles, police equipment, etc. Next slide, please. So starting with the administrative budget. The very little difference between the department proposed budget and the town manager recommended budget, so I'll just highlight a few of the changes that are occurring in this year's budget. One, the UPSU White Collar Union has a new contract. This budget does reflect their negotiated pay raises. That's part of the increase that's built into the budget for this coming year. Also, crossing guards, with the increase in minimum wage, in the federal minimum wage, the crossing guards will be making an extra $1 an hour. The line item that has the most significant change is the maintenance agreement line item. Here, numerous items have been carved out and transferred to a new IT department budget. Most of the maintenance agreements that we have, and we have many at the police department, almost every appliance on our IT network has some type of maintenance agreement that goes along with that piece of equipment. Given the inflation rate that's occurred this year, most of these maintenance agreements have been going up by about 10 to 15% annually. So that does reflect some of the costs here. Also, the IT consulting services, past year we asked for $21,000. We've already expended that entire amount in this fiscal year already. We are proposing to increase that to $30,000 for the next fiscal year. And that allows our IT department to hire outside consultants to help them out with some of the work that has to take place and some of the highly technical pieces of equipment at the police department.
Chief, before you go on, could I
Sure.
ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Is the IT department you're talking about just within the police department? It's not the town's IT department?
No, this would be the town's IT department. And
The
that's,
town.
I don't know if you want to speak to that more after, or Mark?
No, I just,
Or-
Yeah, I'll touch base on that. So
Okay.
okay.
We are asking for $11,600 in this line item to upgrade our phones, our telephone operating system. The telephone system that's in the police department is about 12 years old right now and really has not been serviced or updated since its installation. The company that we have contracted to maintain the phone system is recommending that we upgrade the actual operating system that the phones work on to try to keep the phones viable through the existing life of the building before we do replace the building. Also, we have $12,000 additional budgeted in this account now to lease the license plate reader cameras that were approved by this council a few months ago. This would be the year 2 payment to keep the license plate reader program viable. And we're also asking for $3,500 for new pass-on cloud-based software, which would allow all of the pass-on notes from one shift to another and from one division of the police department to another to be put into a cloud-based software system that would be available on all employees, all officers' cell phones, on their mobile data terminals, and their police cars, so that notes from one shift to another can be passed on and then researched later on as well. It is good to note that we did enter into a new agreement for our copier, our 2 copiers and our printers in the department, which is going to be saving the town about $1,400 a year per year for 5 years now for the term of that lease. Next slide, please. I think it's probably good to ask questions after each individual budget here. So before I move on to the patrol detective budget, does anyone have any other questions regarding the administrative budget?
Through the chair.
Terrific.
I have a question. I'm not seeing in the administration section the phone operating system upgrade.
That would be in the maintenance agreement line item,
Oh, okay.
which I think is 332.
Yep, I see it. Yep, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the patrol detective budget is really the meat and potatoes of the police department's budget. This particular budget funds the salaries of all the sworn members of the police department. My proposed budget called for a 5.55% increase of $238,684. Town manager's recommended decreases that to a 0.7% increase at $31,265. All of that difference is in the salary and staffing request. Now, my original proposal requested 3 additional patrol officers be added to the force. Our current staffing level is 40 sworn. That includes a deputy chief and a chief of police. I would like to bring that to 43. Given I understand there's only so much gold in the pot that you guys have to divvy out to all the different departments in the town. In that, the town manager is recommending 1 additional patrol officer in this budget, which I thoroughly respect. I'll take whatever I can get in manpower. It's important to note that a new officer costs a total of about $82,107. Of that, you can see it broken out that $71,000 is salary, about $5,000 is a new uniform issue, $3,800 to attend the academy, and about $1,500 in ammunition for firearms training at the academy. I'd like to bring the sworn staff up to 43. That would put us at 1.8 officers per 1,000 residents, which is in line with the northeast average, which runs somewhere right between 1.8 to 1.9 officers per 1,000 residents. That was taken from the Federal Bureau of Investigation statistics for towns, the population between 10,000 and 25,000 persons. At 40 sworn right now, we're at 1.6, so we're just under the northeast average of officers per capita.
Just a quick question on that.
Sure.
You requested 3 additional officers. What's in the town manager's recommendation is 1 additional officer. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Correct. You're welcome. Why more officers? We on the next? Yes. Why more officers? Right now, we currently have a minimum staffing per shift of 3 officers per shift. I'd like to bring that number up to 4. To do that, I really need to have more bench players because we generally always have at least 1 person out on some type of medical leave. Right now, I have 1 officer out on a maternity leave. I've had to reassign an officer this year to handle the increased load of accreditation reassessment that will be occurring later this year. The point being here, having some bench players in the patrol division allows for a little more flexibility, saves on overtime, and I'd be able to put more officers out on each shift, which increases our public safety. I'd like to continue participating in regional task force. I have a detective right now assigned to the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, and I have an officer assigned to the Drug Enforcement Agency Task Force. Crime does not stop at our borders. Watertown is, the crime that occurs in Watertown is very much influenced by the region, not just within our town borders. These task forces are very beneficial. We get a lot of assets from them. I'd like to continue utilizing our school resource officers. We have 1 stationed at Swift and 1 at the high school, both full-time. And the demands that have been placed on law enforcement agencies, not only in Connecticut, but across the country, with a lot of the new police transparency and accountability laws, really have increased the administrative demands in reporting and maintaining information, from body camera video to dash camera video, and the amount of reporting that we have to do out now to the state and federal agencies of all the work that we do at the police department is increasing by the year. Other other facts of notable interest here. The collective bargaining agreement for all the sworn police personnel is expiring this coming June. Negotiations will be starting, I believe, in March. So no raises are reflected in this budget. We are expecting 3 retirements in fiscal year 22-23. Within this budget, I did request a 3% increase in overtime costs and a 3% increase in holiday payouts, assuming a 3% raise would be probably on the high end of what a raise would be. Any questions on the patrol detective budget?
Chief, when you say possible 3 individuals that would retire, are they in the detective division or where are they?
So 2 of them are sergeants in the patrol division, and
yeah,
one is a patrol officer.
All right, so they're actually hitting patrol.
Yes.
The last 2, budgeted for a 3% increase overtime and holiday pay. Isn't that already put in with their salary?
So those are separate line items within the budget themselves, but generally if the salary is going to go up a certain percentage, the overtime needs to reflect that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on to the maintenance and support budget. This is a much smaller budget. The department's original proposal was a 37% increase of $67,000. Town manager recommendation, 35% increase at $64,000. I'll just go over real quickly what this budget consists of and where it sounds dramatic when we say a 37% increase to the budget, but that does only reflect a $60,000 increase in the total line item, the total budget. So it's a smaller budget. And the big expense here is to upgrade the police department's radio operating system. Just like our telephone system, our police communications, which is vital to both public and officer safety, allows the officers to communicate with each other and to dispatch, was installed about 12 years ago. It is still operating on Windows Vista platform, which we all know is very old at this point. Our radio vendor, which is Norcom, is recommending that operating system be upgraded to a Windows 10 system. That cost will be $42,000. That will keep this radio system viable for about 3 years. 5 years, absolutely max end of life before we were talking about a significant upgrade to the police department's communication system. With that system, with the UPS units, which are the uninterrupted power supply units that would keep the radio system powered in the event of a power outage, keeps the constant power going to the radio system until the generator kicks on and starts feeding generator power to that system. There's 4 units that power, 4 UPS units that power that radio system. Each one needs to be replaced, and that total cost would be $7,500. I did budget for a few extra $1,000 for maintenance and repair of the system. We generally budget, I believe it's around $7,000 a year for time and material for our radio vendor to come out on cold calls, basically, for any problems that do arise. We've been blowing through that money pretty quickly lately as the radio system ages, the problems become more frequent, and just to keep this radio system viable for a few more years, I've asked for an increase in our time and material labor to keep our radio system going. I'm also asking for $15,000 here to replace our digital video recorder that records all of the surveillance footage from all the cameras within the police department and around the perimeter exterior of our police department. The DVR unit that's in there now has no maintenance agreement on it. It's more of a small business model rather than an enterprise model that is appropriate for law enforcement. So I'm looking to enter into an agreement with a company that would come and replace the DVR with an enterprise level DVR. We'd come with a maintenance agreement, and they would also replace the 8 aging analog cameras in our detention and cell block with new high definition cameras that also have audio on them. And the detention block in any law enforcement agency is the one area of the police department where we experience the highest liability. And making sure that we record both audio and video in the detention block area is very important from a liability perspective. Also requesting $5,000 to replace our two oldest defibrillators, which we use obviously on medical calls. And that concludes maintenance and support. Any questions on maintenance and support?
How much was being allocated for the DVR and new cameras?
$15,000. This agreement would be about $15,000 per year for a 5-year contract. So the total value is going to be about $60,000.
Gary?
Yeah, on your maintenance, special police fire supplies,
Yes.
you have that in two accounts here, one for in the patrol and one in the other part. I was wondering, why do you need two different items, line items?
You're saying one that's in two different budgets?
Yeah, two different, yeah, there's one up here under, it's right here, and then another one down here.
So the one under the patrol detective, the special police fire supplies under the patrol detective budget covers all of our firearms needs, from targets and ammunition, any gun cleaning kits, et cetera. It pretty much funds our firearms program. Under the other budget, which was, is that maintenance?
Maintenance and support, yeah. The 460 account. That's only $675 in that account.
$675 for special police and fire supplies under maintenance and support. Covers flares for use at traffic accident scenes and other areas where traffic control is required. Generally, we purchase equipment for the police cars under that line item. It wouldn't just be for flares. It could be life jackets. It could be throw ropes. It could be any equipment that we keep in each police car.
All right, the other question I had was, said uniform allowance is like $52,120, and then there are another $8,000 for dry cleaning, laundry and dry cleaning?
Correct. So we have a account through Allen's Dry Cleaning where all officers can bring their uniforms to Allen's to be dry cleaned. I believe that's part of their negotiated contract.
But what's the $52,000 for?
The $52,000 is for actually purchasing uniforms for officers. Most of that's new issues. So for every officer we hire, it costs $5,100 to outfit each officer when we hire them. We're looking at this budget, the town manager proposed budget. We have to replace 3 who are retiring. We're looking to add at least 1 additional. So that's 4 times 5,100 right there. And then the rest of that money is also, there's a contractual payout to each officer for uniform equipment as well. That comes out of that budget.
All right, that's it for that.
One thing. Chief, is the 2 defibrillators, are they end of life?
Yes, they're ready to be retired.
So, but are they truly end of life? Like physio will tell you that they're not going to service them anymore, or the batteries are gone. They'll tell you if they're end of life.
Sergeant Skoronsky is our medical guy, and he came to me and said, these 2 are getting really tired and we need to replace them. I went on his word on that one, so I did not hear from physio. I could reach out to them though.
Okay.
And double check.
Anthony?
The $42,000 upgrade to the police radio operating system, is there an annual expense to that?
That would be a one-time expense.
It's a one-time expense? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide, please. All right, we'll blow through this one pretty quick. Our traffic budget really only covers the electricity cost to run all the traffic signals in town. We do also budget a small amount of money here to have the one traffic signal that the town of Watertown owns, which is in front of the high school, to have basically fund any call-outs for our vendor to come out and fix the traffic signal should it go into some type of default mode, or if we don't end up using them for a call out for repair, I have them come out and actually clean out the control box and service it and make sure all the equipment in there is running appropriately. The increase in this budget of $480 is a recommendation from my executive assistant, which states that the electrical costs to run all are basically increasing, and we need to add some money to the account to pay Eversource. Next slide, please. Our animal control budget, we're requesting just under a 6% increase of $5,424. This mostly reflects new pay rates negotiated in the UPSU collective bargaining agreement. The only other money that's changed here is our animal control officer is requesting $1,500 to purchase a washer and